What up, everyone? I'm here with my boy Christian Broussard.
How's it going, everybody?
Oh, dang, you sound so like serious, bro. Relax, bro. Take a deep
Take a
breath.
deep breath. Take a deep
All
breath.
right, try it again. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm here with my boy C Broussard.
How's it going, everybody? This is Christian Broussard.
He has so much energy. It's so exciting. We're in a new series where we're covering parenting. You know, that I think that's one of the most important things to me, probably in my life, that and being a husband. And we want to catch parenting from all sorts of sides, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Me being the young guy, you being a little bit older.
Yeah, I'm an old dad.
Yeah.
I'm an old dad. I'm 37. I got a 4-year-old and 2-year-old, and you're
27, and I have a 9-year-old and 2 3-year-olds.
two complete different worlds. But the facts are, the whole point of this is finding parenting that is similar but relatable and something that everyone can learn from. So I can't wait to talk to you soon.
We're excited.
What's up, Christian? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good, man. You ready to get into this?
I'm excited.
We talk a lot. See, me and Christian, we actually work together.
We have these conversations every day.
Where do we work at, bro?
Compton Junior High.
Compton Junior High, Bakersfield City School District.
Yeah.
Easy. It's not an easy school. I was gonna say easy school, easy money, but
It's easy when you love it, right?
it's easy money when you love it. And I would say me and Christian are two guys. We do the same thing. We love the students, and we got to deal with the students in a certain type of way. And I'm going to preface this for a certain reason. What I do is I deal with the mental health side, right? I got to deal with students, who want to kill themselves. Students are struggling with ADHD, autism, things like that. Christian deals with a hard side also, which is discipline.
Yeah, discipline and school safety. Discipline right there. That kind of, that helps me a little bit with my parenting, and then sometimes it kind of worries me about my own parenting. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting job, and we collaborate often, and we talk about our perspective and our out of work perspectives and how we utilize those skills to help us be better at our jobs and help these kids out.
Because it's not easy,
right?
Dealing with these kids, how would you say it is?
It's a difficult task, just like parenting is.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding, just like parenting. You work with children, you work with an education, and you understand that you have an opportunity to impact and shape lives. So it's a wonderful opportunity, but it is difficult.
Some of the hardest parts about our job, just to be real, is dealing with the other parents too, huh?
Oh yeah, and that's where I pick up on the positives and negatives. Often we see some of these negatives when I'm making calls about discipline, and it's like, okay, this is what I need to do differently in order to not be that parent.
Yeah. Oh, I know, dude. That's same here, man. Same here. I would say that there's been some weeks where I would say a whole weekend. I got a picture of my kid's socks on my face. I like that right there. Look at that. There's been a whole weekend though where I came home and I was just so angry. I was mean to my family, but it had nothing to do with what they were doing. It had to do with what I was experiencing at work and me not wanting my kids to be like those kids, and me making sure that me and my wife are not using similar patterns as those other parents that I've worked with. Bro, it makes me want to just, like Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson. You remember that?
Yeah. I remember we talked about that, and it's sometimes it's difficult, right? Because we look at things that we see with other kids, not recognizing that our own kids are different, right?
Yeah.
Everything in parenting is child by child,
Yeah.
and some things that work for some don't work for others. And I know when you kind of like recounted those stories to me about how you were upset because you're like, this is what we're doing to our children. It's kind of like, it is frustrating. And I've had those same conversations, about my kids' development or some of the behaviors that they're having, and it's like, are we doing wrong? Or these childs or our children being children?
Yeah.
And it's different because we have an opportunity to see so many different situations like that at work. So
and at the end of the day, what I've come to realize is parenting, dealing with kids with disabilities, whatever it may be, I wish it was black and white, but it's not.
Absolutely
not.
Don't
you wish there was like a rule book? Do this, well then you do this. This happens, well then you do this. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's a complete grayscale.
Yeah, and I don't know what the parenting books say because I've never read them, but I've always imagined like there's no way that's gonna guide me on raising my children. So yeah, everything unfortunately is in that gray area, and yeah, it's tough because there's no rules that apply to every child.
You know what makes it hard about the gray area? You know what that means if it's in the gray area?
Is that people are gonna disagree, or sometimes it's not gonna feel you might not agree with your partner.
Oh yeah, you might not agree with your partner, and you know why? Because when you're in the gray, that means everything's trial and error.
Absolutely, and that's even though I'm the younger guy, that's I have some experience now with my 9-year-old, and I've recognized that like, I try something that might be on this end of a spectrum that people see as being so far this way, and that doesn't work, and then maybe I try somewhere farther, and then maybe somewhere in the middle. But sometimes that first way works, right? And it's tough, but it's just trial and error, absolutely, with every child.
Trying to figure that out, and a lot of how we try to figure out the trial and error is based on where we came from.
Yeah.
Based on our experiences, and this is both of our first lives, so it's our first experience at being parents.
Yeah.
So we're relying on how we were raised then.
Yeah.
Right. How were you raised? What was your setup? Just to give people a look, so that way they can understand you a little more.
Yeah. So I would say maybe unique background, but I mean, it's going to be relatable with somebody. So I grew up in a single parent household. My mother raised me. She was a young mom. She had me as a teenager, and she raised me on her own for a long time. And she had to be the
How old was she
disciplinarian.
when she had you?
17 years old.
And your
almost
pops?
17. He was 24 years old, and he wasn't around. I think maybe he tried to be in the beginning, but found some trouble with the law, right? And found himself.
It's not easy to be around.
Oh yes, it's different, and I'd like to imagine that I'm stable, right?
Yeah.
And that I've established a life with good values, and even then, it's difficult. There's no preparing for it, so I can never knock anybody for parenting one way, or maybe not handling the responsibility that other people would agree with.
What do you mean, like not knocking your dad for his decisions?
Yeah,
type thing?
his decisions. I can disagree with him, or but maybe it's the way that he was raised.
Exactly that
led him to live the life that he lived, and then I'm not going to knock his parents, what I mean? But it is difficult to break a cycle, and I feel like that's what I've had to do with my children, given the fact that I didn't have my father actively throughout my life. So yeah, my mom raised me, and she had to be the mother and the father, which isn't easy.
No, it's not,
and it's not ideal. You know what I mean? That's the reason why God made us to have the father and the mother.
Bro, it's not even easy when there's two of us.
So I can't imagine. That's why I give so much more respect to my mother, which I did always growing up. But yeah, it's difficult, and she did a good job being stern and instilling discipline and good values in me, and working, and she was being gone a lot. So
you saw a hustler.
Absolutely.
You saw somebody that had strong values and character, because at the end of the day, she did not have to take care of you. I see plenty of moms who just bounce on those hard circumstances, and she chose to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw a hard worker, you saw a loving mom, and you said she was stern. What did that look like?
Oh, it looked like.
Give me an example.
So education was big in our household, even though my mom wasn't educated, right? She understood that was my pathway towards success, and she would work all day, and I'd be at home. She'd come home at like 9:00, and she'd come examine my homework when she got home, and she'd look at my homework each night after getting home from work. And being a parent now, I know that's not easy.
No,
sometimes
bro.
I don't care, but she'd come home, she'd look at my homework every day, and if she noticed that I looked like I rushed through my homework, she'd call me over to the kitchen or wherever she was at. And I already knew it was a problem. She had to call me over, and she'd erase my entire homework packet and tell me that every day I put my best work forward. Right?
Dang.
That's every day. And then
Wow.
I knew by the look in her eyes, like, that better not happen anytime soon again. Right.
Wow.
So, education was important, but when she valued something, it was instilled in me through those conversations. And not only that, but like you mentioned, I saw what she was doing. Right.
Yeah.
So that was more important than anything she could tell me. And I think that's what's most important as a parent is we can tell our kids what we want to tell them, but if we're not leading by example, if we're not leading that, then they're just words. So my mom told me to be a hard worker without ever saying anything. Right? She showed me. So that was.
Hey, that's the funniest thing too. And you made a huge point. You have to lead by example as a parent. And you know why? I'm a kid. I'm gonna throw back in your face the moment you're living hypocritical. The moment you're not doing exactly what you're saying I should be doing, I'm gonna say, well, you're doing this. How dare you check me?
Kids are smart, and they're learning how to view the world, and they recognize those things quick, right? And my son's 9, and he'll call me out like that if he sees something that he's like, hey, you're telling me I need to make sure I'm being active. You came home and you laid on the couch, right? Like, you need to come out play some football with me. Yeah. So,
They use it against you.
yeah, they use it against you, and then on the flip side, they recognize it. And sometimes, I think, especially as they're younger, right, you don't understand exactly how much are they taking in.
Yeah.
But one of the best conversations I had was with my son when they were doing something in school. He was maybe 6 or 7, maybe 7, and they were talking about people they look up to, right? So he gave the typical answers that a son would. That's really big into sports. So my son's like Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo, and then his third one was me, right? He's his dad, right? I'm like, that's nice, right? So his mom was talking to why did you pick so and so? And oh, he's the best basketball player. He had a good mentality. He had good work ethic, all those things. And then he said for his dad, right? My dad works so hard every day.
Dang.
And he comes home, and he spends time with us,
Dang.
and he's loving, right? And it's all these things. And I'm like, wow, like you recognize that.
Wow.
So it's
As
a
a
beautiful
kid.
thing. Exactly. So to think about years and years of them seeing that, that's the man that my son's going to become, hopefully, right? As long as I continue doing what I'm supposed to and correcting him when he's wrong. But that's the part, though. If I don't lead by example, none of that matters.
And it's, at the end of the day, it's the reps that we put in as parents too.
Yep.
It's not what you say, and it's definitely not what you think. I hear a lot of people offering their opinions. Your opinion means nothing to me. I don't care what you think. I care about what you do.
Yep.
Everyone cares about what you do, where your feet walk, what you say, how you maneuver.
Yeah. So of the plenty of people that I've interacted with in work and in education, that's why I respect this guy. So I've had a lot of people want to give me input. I'm quick to be that kid that's like,
yeah,
you
were like that with me.
And yeah, I was skeptical because I didn't know him, right? But I'm seeing the way that he lives with discipline and with putting God first, putting his family first, working because he cares about his job, not just because he's here to collect the check, right? All of those things, and it's like that's a man that I could take advice from, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's making me sentimental to hear you say that out loud, because I don't do it for the sentiment or for the leadership, or I do it because it's the only way I can live with myself. I have such values and character, but I think that's what our kids look for. And as a parent, and as what you saw as a child, you saw your mom being that woman.
Yeah.
And you knew that you wanted to be that kind of parent too.
Absolutely. Because by no means have I not, wavered, and I went left and I went right, but I recognize that my mom did a good job with me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things I know what things held me in line, and I know, like, just because it was only my mom, so it's not like these two things coming together, which one shaped me to be this way. It's just it was my mom, so it makes it a little bit easier to decipher what works and what doesn't work, because it was just, this is my mom's parenting methods, and these are the things that I try to instill in my kids. And I know some things that maybe I feel like weren't the best, but you used your experiences as a child to help you better understand, okay, what can I do to be a parent? And
what were some things? Because your mom was working as a single unit, you working as a 2-person unit.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you saw that you would like to do differently with your kids that your mom couldn't do?
Well, this is a difficult one, because it's one that I feel like I continue to still do, but there's a nurturing side on the flip side to it that allows it to be a balance. And I think that's why it's important. But my mom was, sometimes I would feel she overdid it a little bit sometimes, and not just
what
in the physical stuff. My mom was big on, I think she recognized that it was difficult for her to raise a man, right?
Yeah.
To raise.
Oh, it is difficult raising a man.
Yeah. So I think she was really worried about anything that came off as feminine behavior. So that's the
Give me an example.
So my mom didn't have as much of an expanded vocabulary as I did. I was a smart kid, right? So if I used a word that was not in her vocabulary, she thought I was being like fancy, but like in a way that she took as feminine. She'd be like, "Don't talk like that."
Okay, so, I see that.
So that's part of it. Little things. If I sat and I'm sitting if I was sitting with my legs closed, she'd come slap my legs and be like, "You're a man. You sit. You have something in the middle, right? You sit a certain way." And I'm like, okay, like it felt like it was.
She's overdoing
it
to try to make. She was doing her best to raise you as a man.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, though, right? And that's why, again, God made us to be the way that we are, right? You need both sides to it. And I tell her that. I tell my wife right now. I tell my wife, like, "Hey, this is my part in our parenting, right? I do have to be firm. Like, you can go in there and nurture him afterwards and love him. And I'm gonna love my sons just like, because I do. But at times, whether I want to or not, this is the part of the parenting that I'm gonna do. and then you do the flip side.
Yeah.
That's the balance that we
And,
provide.
and what you're talking about is that discipline side.
Mhm.
And it's because that's hard.
Oh man,
Bro, that was me and my wife, when my kids were still young, because I grew up in education, and we're gonna get to this in a little bit. We're gonna get to the most annoying parenting behaviors based on what we've experienced and what we have to deal with. But we're not gonna get there yet. We're gonna get there in about 5 minutes. But one of the things that I had to deal with my wife is there were certain times I wanted to go after my kids. I will not tolerate that. You're getting a whipping. And she's like, they're 6 months old. I'm just playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's that tug and pull of what we had. Are you talking about that?
Yeah, no.
How did you deal with that, bro?
Well, I think in relationships in general, but in parenting, it's very important to establish a little bit of trust in both ways, right? And I think as a man, we lead, right? We lead the way.
Yeah.
And I think if you demonstrate that you can lead in everything, right, in any aspect of life, your wife is more likely to trust your judgment, right? So I think she understands that I'm pretty cool, calm, and collected, right? And I'm not quick to temper most of the time. So if I did have a situation where I was like, I need a whoop, like he's getting spanked for that, even though I could see the mom in her wants to go stop and go hug our son or whatever it is, right? I think she recognizes that
it has to happen.
This has to happen, and we trust one another. And at times, she does tell me like, "Hey, I don't think so," right? And I try to be patient with those things. Obviously, it's different with my older son than it is with my younger ones. A lot of the times, it's with my older sons. My younger ones, if they're doing something, you get the immediate reaction.
You got to be quick.
A little tap.
Yeah,
a little tap. But with my older son, sometimes we'll get a message from the teacher. Hey, he's misbehaving, and so whatever. So we'll talk about it, and I'm like, what are we thinking, right? Like, I think this isn't representative of what we raised him to do.
Fantastic.
And I think he understands that. And I don't know what the reason is. I'm going to talk to him before, right? Because he's old enough now to where you get both ends, son. You're going to get a full conversation, a lecture, and you're also going to get the whooping, right? So, but we
are grounded.
Or grounded, right? But we talk about those things before, and I think that's one thing that we do in order for me to not push it. So our checks and balances system is to talk about it first, right?
What a good process. So what you're telling me is, if something happens to your kid at school, you actually take it slow.
Mm-hmm.
You get to know the situation first. Then you discuss it with the most important most important person, the mom. You discuss it with the mom.
Yeah.
And you see what she thinks, and then you guys come up with an agreement.
Yeah.
And based on that agreement, that's how you guys move forward.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's exactly
what my God.
It's not always easy though, right? We talk about what our
That's
plan is, and
though.
sometimes, but oftentimes if it's something school related, there's time before, right?
Yeah.
So there was once where I picked him up, right? My son up, and it was something not major-ish, but it was enough to where it kind of got my blood boiling. So that as I'm there, the teacher's explaining to me what happened. I'm waiting for him to come up for me to pick him up. And she's detailing it, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like my son. Like, part of this doesn't. But I'm like, if he did this, I'm gonna whoop him. That's how mad I was, right? So,
yeah.
But I also recognize I'm a school employee, and I understand that they're mandated reporters, right? So I'm gonna wait. So he comes, and I'm just like, so I'm walking him to the car, and I'm telling him though, and he knows that he's in trouble. But I telling him like, you're gonna get whooped so bad, right? When you get home, right? So, but at least it buys me time, and then it allowed me to kind of to think a little bit, and then I talked to his mom, and we talked about like, okay, well, let's hear his perspective on this first, because it doesn't sound like our son. Part of this sounds like something he might do. And it turned out that the part that I was most upset about didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
It was 100% not true. So that's why it's also good, right? I would have felt bad spanking him and then being like, oh, you know what?
You should always take it slow.
Yeah.
You should always get to know the story.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what are the things, because I think this is what people want about, especially discipline and consequences. What are the things that you would automatically spank your kids for? The automatic. It's a red-handed no matter what happens, and it's immediate.
I mean, there's a range of the way that this sounds, right? But I think disrespecting an adult, like legitimately disrespecting, being outwardly disrespectful to an adult, I don't tolerate it, right?
Good for you.
Anybody that comes into our home or that we interact with, the expectation is that you give respect, right?
And I've noticed that you do have that in your home, because when I walk in, your kids are respectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not. I appreciate it.
So what are the other things?
They're not completely. They're not terrified. Don't worry. But they understand. Yeah. They understand what the expectations
reverence.
are. There's a few things that and these could just be like preferential things, but I don't like the idea of stealing, right?
Mhm.
Like there was an incident where he found some school money that didn't belong to him, right? And it got me really upset because I'm like, you don't take anything. And in life, things, you know, people work for what they have, and maybe it's because of the way that I'm a little bit traumatized by society nowadays, right? But it's like those things get my blood boiling when I see people losing their hard-earned possessions because people disregard not only but the law, but just morality, right? Like you don't take things that don't belong to you. So I'm all looking at like the bigger picture. I'm spanking them over people that are breaking into stores.
Hey,
right
but hey, you know what one of my non-negotiables is?
What is it?
If they hit their mom.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what age you are.
Yeah.
You hit my wife, you're gonna get beat up. I don't care if you're 75 years old, 5 years old. You touch my wife, don't care if you're my blood or not.
Yeah.
Game on.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a whooping.
You know, but I think it's important too, because obviously your kids are young, but at the same time, they're going to recognize you being their father, you being a man, you being obviously your wife's husband, is that you're the protector.
Yeah.
Like you don't allow that to happen, right? Like those are things, those are snapshots that not only your kids take, but people take in general. Like, you know what? He values that role.
Yeah.
There's different parts to being a husband and a father, but that's one important part is in my home and for my family, I'm the protector of my family, right?
Yes.
So I think that says a lot about where you know what you take pride in, right? Like sometimes it's like when you start to talk about what things do bother you, they're just they symbolize more. It's like, okay, well, why do you think so? And then I think in your situation, it's like that's your protective role as a man.
It's my beauty.
Yeah.
All right, man. We're about 21 minutes in. We got about 3 minutes left. Hey, what's the most annoying parenting?
Oh, you know, it's funny, right? Because I didn't even plan on being here today. We were talking today though, and we were just talking about, you know, some of the parents that we interact with, and it's just when parents don't take accountability or take responsibility, or they make excuses for their kids, right? Or they don't want to believe it. And I don't know if they don't believe it or not, or if they're so.
My kid didn't do that.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, it's on camera. I was there, right? Yeah, it's the worst, right? Because and I think again though, but that helps me be a better parent.
Yeah,
because my initial reaction, if I was to hear from a school staff member or anybody, is, you know what, I'm gonna listen and be supportive to them. I'm obviously gonna listen to my son's side of the story, right, or my child's side, but I initially, you should understand that most of the time people aren't gonna make up stuff about your kids.
No,
right? And the version of your kid that you have at home might be a little different than how he's interacting.
Come on, there's no kids at your house. There's no demands. You're not pushing them to do that much stuff.
So that, without a doubt, for me, right, we deal with a lot of different variances of annoying and not pleasant parents, but I think the worst is that because it enables those behaviors that they're trying to defend and argue against, right? It's like you're saying, oh, my son would never cuss at a teacher, and it's like, no, you trying to argue about it is going to make your son think that he can get away with it.
And then their kids cussing at them if they're saying that.
Exactly.
F you, mom.
Yeah. And I'm like, are you sure you don't believe he does that?
Hey, you know what my worst,
What is it?
most annoying parenting behavior? Parents, listen to this. I'm looking right at the camera. I'm looking at you. If you let your kid get their needs met or get what they want when they cry, that is not the way people request things. It's using your words. Isn't that the worst?
Yeah. No, because again, all of those parenting methods that we disagree with, they usually enable bad behaviors.
Yes.
Right. You allow crying to then get you the outcome that you want. And then it's like, oh, crying works. You tell your parents, oh, I would never say that. And they go argue with the school officials that are talking to them. And it's like, oh, that's all I have to do. That works. In reality, it doesn't work. And you're not preparing your kids for real life.
Hey, you know what happens too, man? See, I can tell I could tell when a grown man got what they wanted by crying too much. Because you know why? I don't want to be around them.
Yeah.
I can't stand them. Your kids, if you allow them to be like that, they will be lonely. Kids don't want to play with other kids that are like that. And adults don't want to hang out with other adults that are like that. So not only is it annoying, but guess what it sets up for? Loneliness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's leave them on one last thing, man. What's one parenting advice that we can give? We talked about discipline. We talked about consequences. We talked about all these things. What's one last thing we can leave our audience with?
I'm gonna say this, right? Because I think, you know, and hopefully to the most of our audience, right, we're operating in 2-parent households, is build trust within your spouse and understand that you make decisions together for the best interest of your child. That should always come with love and a little bit of firmness, balance of the two. I think that's important.
I love that. And everyone, this is one last thing I'm going to add. the way me and him are able to be good fathers is we meet weekly. We have a mentoring group that we read the Bible with, we pray, and guess what? We bounce all of our ideas off older guys who've been there. So use these strategies, everyone. I hope you watch, you like, you subscribe, you do everything. Enjoy my boy C.
Thank you guys.
Peace with some chicken grease, everyone.